an email yesterday and he said, I really need you to fill in for me. So here I am. I'll just try and do my best so he doesn't look bad. So I'll just give you a little bit of background of myself, and then the topic that he told me that he was going to cover was preparing students for a global marketplace. I'll do my best with that. So you can understand where I'm coming from. I was born in Arlington, Virginia, and then at a very young age I went and lived in South America, in Ecuador, in Quito. I lived there most of my life. When I finished high school there, I came back to the States, went to Marymount University. I got my BBA in marketing, went straight through and got my MBA in finance and entrepreneurship from American University in Washington, D.C. And then I went and tried to play stockbroker in New York. I only lasted a couple years, and this is what happened to me. That was worst 2 years of my life. I should have stayed. I had an offer from Prudential in DC. I should have stayed there. But anyway, you see movies, you're young, you're stupid, and that's where I wound up. I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, yeah, this is done. I had to do 300 cold calls every day, literally 300. Even though it was a beautiful place, One New York Plaza, right by Battery Park, overseeing Statue of Liberty, 40th floor. It was out of a movie. So I went back to Ecuador and I started a number of businesses. Obviously, I failed at most. You know how the way that works. And I became a professor. If you can't teach. Some of the ventures actually did work out. I wound up there with a motel, a few restaurants, a bar, travel agency, and some commercial real estate. And after about 13 years of teaching there while doing all this other stuff, I decided to pursue a PhD. I had no more money to invest. I invested my last thing, and I'm like, okay, now what do we do? So I rented out the businesses. I got each manager and say, look, I'll rent this out to you. And I went to Ole Miss in 2008. So in this world, it's like you're old starting a doctorate. So I was there from 2008 to 2011. I met Dr. Humphreys, our current provost. He would go and teach there because a really good friend of his was my advisor. I published with him 4 articles, I think, while I was still in the PhD program. He said, I want you to come and teach with us. I said, no, I'm going to South America. I said, no, you're coming and teaching with me. You know who won. Apparently he won. I wound up coming here, and I'm happy to be here. I wound up liquidating everything I had in Ecuador, and I decided to stay here because I'm happy there. Okay, so that's a little bit of my background. So I've been a department head of management for the past 4 years. There's been a reorg, so they also threw on me the economists. So now it's management and economics. That ought to be very unique. You won't find that anywhere in the world.
You have Steve Schwinn to deal with.
Yeah, can you imagine dealing with Steve? Yes. Yeah. But actually, I love Steve. Actually, I had dinner at his house not too long ago, a few weeks ago. Great people in that department. Anyway, but it's going to be a challenge. Okay, so now to get to the topic of preparing students for a global marketplace, Lloyd sent me his notes. I figured I'd just create my own and do my own spiel. So I guess we're at the point, and it's funny because I know that many of you from the university, it's just like preaching to the choir, but many people say that we're teaching kids skills that they're just not going to use in the marketplace because marketplace is just changing so rapidly. Well, the president sent me to San Diego to this ASU GSV conference. It's a conference about innovation in education. And this was about a month ago. And he says, I want you to go there because I want you to start an entrepreneurship center here, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But the whole spirit and why I'm mentioning it is it's amazing the speed at which higher education is changing. It's, I didn't know what to say because I think highly of myself. So I'm like, no, I've got this. I went there like, I don't have this. We have to move faster and better, and because things are just changing really quickly. So the different topics I wanted to discuss is a little bit about the trends that I saw then what we're doing, at least in the College of Business, some things I know that are going on in the university. Then I'm going to integrate the international part and how we're trying to prepare our students to become, internationally adept. And then I'll kind of conclude there and see if you have any questions. That's more or less the plan. At this conference, it was really interesting. James Carhill, John Fallon, Priscilla Chan Zuckerberg, Tony Blair, Cindy McCain, Andre Agassi. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, you're talking about the Harvard, Stanfords, et cetera, right? This, and Silicon Valley type people and whatnot. So it was really an eye-opener. So it seems to me that there's certain trends that are going on. Some things I learned at this and some things I just knew from before. As many of you know, higher education is going through a pinch, right? I mean, we're going through some rough times for many reasons. First of all, obviously, we just don't have much funding. Okay, but I'm not going to harp on that because we all know that every day it's less and less and less, and we just have to figure it out ourselves. That's the world we live in, so we just have to be more entrepreneurial. And that's just the way that is. Second is, obviously, we know the trends of unemployment in education. Fortunately or unfortunately, unemployment rates are low. Right? Well, it's fortunate for the rest of the world. Not so fortunate for higher education, but I'm happy for the economy and whatnot. But we're in a bind there as well, right? As I'm sure all of you know the trend. Also, international students. The whole country's felt a pinch with international students, difficulties getting visas and whatnot. We've felt a pinch there, especially in College of Business. We had plenty of relationships. For example, we had it with the Saudis. We used to, teach a ton of classes in downtown Dallas. My classes are normally I teach strategic management, it's the capstone course at the graduate level. It used to be packed, right? 30, 35 students, and we had all these Saudi students, other international students and whatnot. And now I can't have enough students to make a class in what was UCD. Now we have a partnership with El Centro, but anyway, so I can't fill a class. So now, of course, our debate is, should I even be offering graduate face-to-face classes? I don't know. Where's the world going? Does anybody care to have a face-to-face class anymore? I don't know. It seems like not, So anyway, these are some trends. Another trend that was highlighted at this conference was everything to do with neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and how that's impacting the landscape. That's where my mind was really boggled. They have software out there that you can ask a student to do an assignment. They can handwrite it. A machine will just read it, grade it, and submit it back. A handwritten assignment. Now, I know I'm not high tech, so maybe some of the other faculty or whatnot know about this, but for me, this was wow. So what you're telling me is you don't need me. Is that let me understand this? What am I doing? Then I become a cheerleader. Please go study. Please go study. Please go study. It's like, wow, you can just write something and the machine will just. And if we think about it, many a times when we're going online and they say, may I help you with something, right? And we're asking questions back and forth. We all know that's artificial intelligence. There's nobody on the other side of that. So it's not a crazy thing to say, okay, well, sure. If they can do it online, why can't you do it, to grade a paper or whatnot? So for me, this was really interesting. And this goes for everything from student selection to how students learn, what different areas of the brain are being triggered and how, and all of these things. Frankly, it's also affecting our teaching because now we're also trying to become a lot more engaged with our students. Now the challenge is, how do you become engaged with a student like this? My nature would be whack, let's just don't repeat that, I'll get fired. But you know what I mean. You're like, oh yeah, I appreciate that.
Compliance already.
You guys have a job opening anywhere? But you know what I mean. It's like, well, come on. I taught a freshman seminar last fall, and I must be insane because I'm going to do it again this fall, one of these signature courses. I think, therefore, I create value. Actually, I was supposed to do that later. It doesn't matter. So during the class, you see really, most of them are on their phones. And so what do? So of course we can try and fight with them, wrestle with them, say, don't use the phone. Or maybe we should start thinking of how can I make them use the phone for something that's cool, that's neat, that's educational while you're using it. It's with my children, it's the same thing, to be honest. It's kind of embarrassing. You're losing the battle all the time. So how can I use a phone for you to better learn math or science or whatever in the world it is that you're trying to learn? So what I learned from this conference is that's the direction things seem to be going in. Okay? It's engagement, short attention span. You can't talk to a kid more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have kids, grandkids, whomever, but they won't listen to you. Why? Because a YouTube video is like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, right? So it has to be all the time. They have to be entertained. They have to be engaged. They have to be this and that. So our challenge lies somewhere in there because this is where the future is going, right? Also, modular degrees. It seems like people don't want to be in education that long, right? Especially when you're talking about grad school. People want to be in it, look, I want 3-4 week course, whatever, teach me project management and I'm out of here. Something they can use and that's it. That's why people are talking about stackable degrees and things like that, right? Because the landscape is changing. You're not going to get a person to go sit in your class and stay there for 4 years or 2 years or whatever it is. Even when I got my graduate degree, I had to take 22 courses. It was a full-time MBA. It was no joke. Now you go with 12 classes, 11 classes, 13, 10. I mean, come on. Something's got to give, right? And that's what you're battling. It's tough, right? Because now it's my obligation to make sure they get an education, but the demand from the market is give it to me as quickly as possible. Like it's the McDonald's of education. We're just here. It's like a mill, and that's one of the things that we're battling. So that's kind of tough. Also, specialized degrees. If in my case the MBA, right? MBA. Before everyone used to talk about you can't get a job without an MBA. You can't go up in your career without an MBA. Now it's like, well, I'm not too sure. I want a specialized degree, right? I want an MS in analytics. In agro-analytics, in healthcare management, right? So these degrees are becoming a lot more specialized, okay? And these are some of the things that we're wrestling with. Okay, on to, so what are we doing about it? So I mentioned one thing are these signature courses, right? So signature courses were intended to, and I don't know if everyone knows what signature courses are. They ask faculty, teach whatever in the world you feel like teaching. Not your traditional courses. I don't care, Aristotle in the workplace, I don't know, whatever, right? What are we trying to do? We're trying to create divergent thinkers. We're trying to engage these students who are getting bored way too easily. We're trying to retain them. So after the first math class that they take, they're not running out the door, right? So these are ways that we're trying to engage with these students. The university has hired a VP of Economic Development, right? C.C. Gazzard, right? Amazing, right? But notice the landscape is changing. Why? Because we know that no longer can an educational institution be by itself, right? It has to be community, the university, the students and faculty, right? So it has to be somewhere in here. And now how can we mix these together to give the best education possible to the students while they're learning from these people in the community? How do you do that? And then I'm going to give you a few thoughts of how I believe we should be doing it. Other things. So we're teaching them oral and written communication, decision making, problem solving, and ethics. These are the major objectives within the College of Business. We also teach them through simulations, right? Because I no longer can use just a textbook and say, read chapter 2, we'll talk about it next class. Read chapter 1, it doesn't work. First of all, they won't buy the textbook, which brings to the other point that now everything's online. And not only online, it has to be almost interactive, right? Because if not, you're not going to pay attention, right? If they just have to read, they're not going to read. Why? Because their attention span it's not fun, right? So now it's that, you're almost going away from a textbook, you're going to online education. Within online education, you're making it entertaining, right? So notice how the landscape is changing, and this is the puzzle of how we're trying to teach this new generation. How we're trying to prepare them. We integrate consulting within our classes. For example, Harper's in Paris, they said, hey, we'd like for you to do a strategic plan. Okay, no problem. So went over there, said, okay, for which one of the companies? They said, here, pick one of these, we'd love for you to do a strategic plan. So you take that, you take it into the classroom, you make it a class project, you're engaging the students, you're engaging the community, right? And that's how you're bridging the gap. And that's how you keep them entertained. That's how it's educational. That's how it's practical. And that's how it can get on their resume. Right? But can you imagine the complexity? It's another dimension that you're bringing on us. But that's the way you have to play this new game. Okay? We just were fortunate to have hired a gentleman who was the VP of HR at L3. Right? Thank you. The neatest part is they're financing him. He was ready to retire because of the relationship we have with him. He said, you know what, we'll pay for him. And while he's there, he's going to help develop a supply chain major, which we're currently developing. So notice how now it's a different game. Now we're trying to integrate between, businesses in the community, professionals there, and the education on campus. He was recently asked by a nonprofit organization, which he is one of the chairmen or whatever. He said, hey, could you determine if the price of, the CEO of this nonprofit, if the salary, the compensation is correct or not? I mean, he knows everything there is to know about HR, so for him this was a joke, right? So he said, this is wonderful. Class project. He's teaching undergrads. So now you integrate that into your class. You tell them that they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. They solve the problem. They understand how. Now that's the way you kind of weave these skills into them. And you make it entertaining. And you lend them importance. You say, okay, the final product, sign your name here, sign your name here. We did it as a class, now present it to them. But these are the games we need to play to engage, right? Different landscape. Similarly, we're offering, I told you about modular. So now we're integrating things like SAP or project management. We're weaving them into the classes. Why? Because our stakeholders, for example, in L3, said, we currently teach, all of our people, all of their systems are SAP. Okay? Say, well, how about if we outsource that to you? And we'll actually pay you to get this started. Well, sure, I can do that. We got all of our faculty, we started to get the training. Okay, so you have an HR class, now you weave SAP into it. You have operations class, you weave SAP into it. You have supply chain, you weave SAP to it. And now I can give them a certificate. If you've taken 3 classes with SAP, now I can give you a certificate. Stackable credentials. Right? I already have them, who I'm selling the classes to, because that's what they wanted. That allowed me to integrate this into my normal classes, so I've created a win-win-win situation. Right? And that's what we're trying to do. What else? We've been forming clubs to try and make this more engaging and learning experience. For example, the management club has gone to Amazon. They've gone to L3. They've gone to Kimberly-Clark. Again, it's part of making this more dynamic. All right? So, now what's next? What's coming up next? I'm pushing right now for customizable programs. Okay? I told you graduate enrollment is down. I've already told you that people are looking for more specialized programs. I don't have a lot of money to deal with. I don't have a marketing budget. But Mario, I need you to increase enrollment. Okay. You want me to go into a fight, both hands behind? You know, I don't know how you do this. So I said, okay, how about we do this? What I do know is that we're flexible, right? And I pretty much can do whatever I want within reason as long as it's not something stupid, right? I mean, nobody's going to really tell me no. How about if I customize programs? What I did was I went to Lockheed Martin. I said, you know what? In my classes, I have 7 to 8 of your people every semester. How about if we make a program just for you? How about we do that? How about if I take the graduate program and I customize it? I modify it. How about even if we co-teach it with some of your executives? Right? We teach the finance and then you teach them and you say, and this is the way we do it here. Right? I teach you the HR, and then you say, this is the way we do it here. The case studies that you do, it's about your own company, right? So I'll tailor it for you. Notice how this is totally different model in higher education. I mean, let's be honest. Before, you know, especially an SMU, they're not going to do that. You want to learn, you come to me, and you're going to learn my way, the way I teach, and that's it, right? Okay. So Lockheed, they pay, you know, up to $10,000 per year for 3 years for every one of their employees. Okay? So if I went up to them and I said, you know what, MBA costs $16,000, $17,000, and I'm going to customize it to you. How about it? And I'll probably hire one or two of your executives to teach a couple of the courses. Okay? And that's what currently we're starting to do. I've already approached, so they already, I think they have signed up 33 people for the MBA, 19 people for the MS in Management, and another 19 people for the MS in Business Analytics for the fall. My intent is to grow that program, but also have our kids have a shot at internships, at jobs, at a long-term strategic relationship, right? So notice how, you know, I don't have the resources, but now I can call out to alumni, right? So we have, you know, our board and all of these advisors and whatnot. We just had a board meeting the other day. I went for someone who's been working at PepsiCo for 30 years, retired. I said, yeah, come here, we need to talk. We need to talk. PepsiCo, I'm sure they would love to have a customized program, right? And that's kind of the direction we're starting to take this. Okay? Final thing on this note is what the president wants. So the president wants, he called me just a month ago or a few weeks ago, and says, you know what, I want to start a venture college. It's really not a college. It has the word college in it, but he wants to start a college of innovation and design. Okay? So get rid of university college and start College of Innovation and Design. The purpose of this college is to be cross-disciplinary, a center that doesn't really belong to any of the other colleges, right? So this is where, you know, you can do things across disciplines and you can get creative. He says, well, within this space, I want you to create Venture College. He created this at Boise State. What is Venture College? Can we have a space where we foment, encourage, nourish entrepreneurship, where we can tell somebody in engineering, you know what new crazy idea do you have? How can we help you make it happen? Or in biology, or in chemistry, or in literature, or in psychology, or in business, or in whatever. Can we have a group of these creative students, you know, hook them up with people in the community, a mentorship possible program, right? With faculty, with people, someone who's been there, who's done that, and say, hey, would you be willing to mentor somebody? Well, why not? That's the, I mean, right? That's the ultimate giving. It's really not in the money. It's giving your time and your experience and your knowledge. So if we can bridge this gap within this space of venture college, it would be really neat. Now, I've knocked on the doors of every one of the deans. I'm pestering everyone, so everyone's going to get annoyed at me, but I'm like, please send me students. I need students. I need your best and your brightest and your craziest and your most innovative and your most proactive and your most fearless risk takers that you have. That's what I want. Send them to me. I don't care about their grades. Because sometimes these crazy people, they're just divergent thinkers, sometimes it's not about their grades, right? But can we pull that off? Would it have benefit to society, to community, right? 3 days later, President calls me. I just got out of a meeting with the Harpers. They actually might be interested in putting some money down and doing this in Paris because they want to encourage and nourish and foment entrepreneurship in that community. Can we pull it off there? So I'm already in communication with the high schools there. Can we offer a dual credit entrepreneurship program? Can we have right? So these are different ways in which education's going. I don't want to bore you anymore with that. International component, because you must be wondering, well, how in the world, Commerce Texas, are you going to, promote international, right? I mean, it's not exactly Washington, D.C., New York, right? So first of all, we have very international faculty. At least I can say in the College of Business, gosh, it looks like the United Nations. I mean, we're from all over the place. First of all, obviously, I'm a mixture between Lebanese, Latin American, and U.S. born. So what am I? I don't know. A mutt. I don't, confused, But I've done business in Latin America. I've taught classes in Sarajevo and Belgrade and Rabat, Morocco, and Latin America, and all these places. So we bring these experiences, obviously, to the classroom. Other ways we do it. We have 2+2 agreements with a number of universities. For example, NAMSOL, I was in South Korea not too long ago, formalizing some agreements that we have with them. If I'm taking too long, somebody just use a cane and... 2 minutes. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that's near impossible. Okay. No, it's okay. Obviously we send our students many times to places like China and London to get amazing experiences. Bottom line, I got this off of our website, and I didn't know the numbers was this large, 900 students from 50 countries. By integrating and mixing these international students with our local students, it's also an amazing experience. Okay? Now, because I have to finish, just a couple things that I haven't been able to figure out. What I'm still trying to figure out is, how do you motivate students? How do you encourage students? How do you get them to be proactive? How do you get them to be divergent thinkers? How do you get them to be the risk takers, the go-getters, the hungry? How do you make a child these days become hungry? I want it. Bad. I don't know. And this is, look, I've been in education, I think, for quite a while, over 20 years. So I've been doing this for a while, and that's the one thing I just haven't figured out. You can try and you can motivate and you can stand on your hands and you can do this, do that, but how do you transmit the passion that you feel to them? And that's I can teach them finance, I can teach them all these things, You can't teach hungry. I don't know. I haven't found out exactly how. When they come, I'm telling you, recruiters from different companies, all they're asking for, they don't even care what major you are. Send me your best. And it's funny because when we're receiving students at the beginning of a semester, they're, trying to figure out their majors. What should I major in? I don't know. Just be awesome. Mm-hmm. And what do you tell them? I really don't care. Well, but should I go like accounting or is it more med? I don't care. What do you enjoy? But be awesome. If you're awesome, they're going to hire you. I guarantee it. Because that's what they're asking for. You bring me somebody awesome, I'll teach him the rest. That's not a problem. Okay? Ultimately, I'll just reach out to all of you because I think it's also important that you be involved in the advancement of these kids. And, I do think that it takes a village, not, only to raise kids, but also to educate them. And that's why I do believe in the nexus between community and the teaching of these kids and their placement. There has to be some connection. That's all I have to say, because if not, he's going to...